Testing 1, 2, 3. Alright. Make sure this thing works. I am going to record this. Alright, does everybody have that project from last time? Yeah. On the D drive? If you don't have a copy of it, see if you can sit next to somebody in your row that has a copy and y'all can kind of tag team. Does everybody remember what we did last time? Roughly? Yeah. Luncheon box. Yep. I'm going to go to the D drive. And 2020. LD2 examples. There we go. It's going to open up. Oh, that's right. We were doing all this stuff last time. Making some pieces. I'm going to get rid of that. Let's go back and give us a floor here. So I'm going to go to... oh, it's way over there. Let's put it 0, 0, 0. Haha. Whee! Alright, we have a floor now. Hooray. Alright, yeah, so last time we were messing with physics, oh, whoops. Fail. Yep. Drag him over there. I'm gonna get rid of all this stuff. All the way across? Yeah, with our modular kit. I'm gonna turn off the grid, so under show grid, and get rid of that. Everybody knows about pressing G to go into game mode, right? So it hides all of the editor crap. Yeah. Raise this up a little bit more. Oh, you're under the floor. That's not good. Alright, so here's our stuff from last time. What we're going to try to do today is we're going to try to get a door working. You guys want to try a door?
Like sliding
yeah,
door,
yeah, we can do. We're going to try to do a sliding door. Alright, so remember we have our trigger base from last time, right?
Yeah.
What we can do is we can right click on here, right? And let's create a child blueprint class. So what we've just done is we basically make a copy of that, right? And it has all the properties of the trigger base here, but we're making something very specialized, right? So I'm going to call this door base. All your base belong to us, and its doors. So not creating new blueprint, but just right-clicking on this one, and at the very top, create child blueprint class. I made the mistake last semester. Was it the semester before that? I asked the class at the end, does everybody remember how to make a child? And I didn't want to put the word blueprint after it. And then, whoops. How do you make a child blueprint class? Right click. Great. I skipped like 5th grade, sorry. All right, now if you hover over door base, you see all the properties here? What does it say next to parent class?
It says game blueprint VP trigger.
Trigger base. So this is based off of that, right?
Yeah.
So if, let's say I opened up the trigger base, right? Oh, die player die. That's funny. So we have all this stuff in here, right? And our trigger base, right? And our actual box where we walk through, right? And then we have this stuff in here. What I'm going to do is make sure you have your trigger base open. We're actually going to get rid of all of this and hit delete. So just leave the one that says on component begin overlap in the event graph. Get rid of all of that.
And the door base correct.
Oh, not the door base, the trigger base.
Okay.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do here is we only want this to interact with the player, right? So there's a couple ways we can do that. One of them is to detect if they are equal to the actual game character pawn, player pawn. So I'm going to type in equals here from other actor. Like, hey, this is the other actor that walked through the box. And then we're going to check to see if it's equal to another blueprint. So this one you could put whatever you wanted into to see if it's a certain type, right? Or a reference to another, something in the game. I'm going to type in get player pawn, like that. So get player pawn is basically get player number with this ID. Now, does anybody know what number programmers start counting at? 0. So player index 0 is player what? Player 1. If I put in player index 1, that's player 2. Okay. So right here where it says pawn, there's another one that says get player character, right? That's basically the same thing as this. I like using this one because it's kind of like, it includes lots of other blueprint types. So let's say you're in control of a plane or whatever. Is that a character? It's a pawn because you're possessing it and you have control and input, but it's not like a humanoid walking around and stuff, right? So this is kind of like a subset of that. So it'll include everything above it.
The game literally just was you playing as a plane. That is all it was.
It was you playing as a plane?
Yeah,
You are the plane? This will still work. Yeah. What does a branch do?
Find the condition.
If it does find the condition. And what color is it?
Red.
It's red. Do you have multiple copies of the project open? Sometimes it does that if you accidentally double click it twice. No? Hit compile again? Okay, save. What is it saying? Hit close. And then close that blueprint out. Yeah. So it's the same thing. Try closing the project and opening it again. Is it on a D drive or flash drive or D drive? Huh. Yeah, try opening it again.
Was that middle node you used?
This one right here? Equals. You can type in equals twice. Now, do y'all know what the double equals means? Anybody? Equals equals? Yeah, you're comparing, right? This is asking the game, is this actually equal to this? I mean, technically, if you tell a computer this equals this, it'll be like, okay. You could tell it A equals B, and it'll be like, okay. Now, if you say double equals, it says, is A really B? And they'll be like, no. Yeah, it's a question. And then that you take their statement, is it true or false, right? Or Boolean, and it puts it into a branch. If you do anything with code, this is usually called an if statement or an if condition. The hotkey for a branch is hold down B on your keyboard and left click for branch. So anything that needs to be hooked up with a Boolean, you can use that. So if this equals player number 1, we're going to go to true, right? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a function that we can override in here. So a function is basically like one of these events, right? But it's in its own graph. So I'm going to, you see the plus function right here to add one?
Yeah.
And then what color is right here? Purple? Yeah, so we're inside its own graph. And this one is,
Is open?
do what now?
Is open or is on?
Yeah, well, we're going to type in trigger activated. Still have the same thing? Can you want to take that project and put it on another? It's not set to read only for some reason, is it? No. Or maybe put it in a different, location. I'm not sure. Alright, so we have this. It says trigger activated, right? I'm going to go back to my event graph. And then I'm going to drag trigger activated right here. And then drop it. So this is our function, right? And it says target is BP trigger base. So we're basically calling this function. And then if you double click on it, it'll go here, right? Double click on this. And it'll go to its own graph. Now you can put whatever you want in your functions, right? When we were in that video, it was talking about modularity. So this is a way to do that. If you have a bunch of things that are related, put it into an event or function and be like, hey, just do this. And then have another one, hey, just do this. For the blueprints that I usually do, it'll usually be like a run setup or perform a certain action or send a message to something else or something, real specific. Let's say like update health or, activate these targets or something like that. In this case, I'm going to leave it empty though. And the reason for doing that is it doesn't do anything in the trigger base, but we can override this in our child blueprint and have it do whatever we want after that. All right, does everybody have this part? Good to go? Now, does anybody know what commenting is?
Yeah.
Writing comments? What is, you're doing it right now?
Organizing.
Organizing, yeah, and letting you know and other people know what the heck you're doing with your code or your blueprints, right? Does anybody know how to write a comment in blueprints?
Yeah, you just click and then I type in comment.
Yeah, so you can drag a box around whatever, right? And then press C and have a comment box. So what does this do?
Trigger door.
Trigger event. Or like when player activates trigger. Something that makes sense to you. Over here on the right side, you can change the text for the comment, the font size, color bubble. I'm not sure what that is. You can change the color, which is really cool. No, we're not changing the font to Comic Sans. You shouldn't. I mean, Comic Sans is Comic Sans. Chris thinks that you should be failed right now. Fail. We don't talk about Common Sans. We don't talk about Fight Club. All right. So here's our trigger event, right? Now I'm going to go back to... Is it working now, Eli? Or you just ready to start? Okay. Okay. I'm going to go back to the door base, right?
Yep.
Now, I still have all the same things in the viewport, right? If you go into viewport, you see our little sphere down here, the default scene root, and then our trigger box itself. Look over here on the left side, top left in the components section. What does it say in parentheses beside it? Inherited. So, if this is the parent, and this is the child inherits the parent's properties. Inherits, not inherits. So like, if your parents have blue eyes, then you're more likely to have blue eyes, right? So whatever's on here will automatically show up over here. But you can also customize this, right? The child can be rebellious and do what it wants. And we're going to do that right now. So let's go to the event graph. And let's get rid of these bottom two nodes. We don't need those. I'm going to keep begin play for now. But what we are going to do is go over here to functions on the left side. Do you see an override button like that? Click override and then find the one that says trigger activated. And click on it. So see, we have now overridden what the parent told us to do. So parent says, go clean your room. And you're like, we can print a string that says no. right?
Only the
Actually, we could do that in here. Let's do that. Go back to trigger activated on the trigger base, just to show how this works. So this is not the door. This is the other one with the purple function. Do a print string, and then say, should we do go clean up your room or pick up that can? Pick up the can in your room. Ew. Oh. Go pick up that stuff. Go clean your room.
Do you even live?
Go clean your room, scrub. Huh? Maybe. You're assuming I had parents. No. Sorry, that was a Batman joke. All right. So we have go clean your room, right? Let's go ahead and test that real quick. So I'm going to drag in trigger base. I'm going to put it right over here in front of the stairs, right? So we're going to hit play and then look up in the top left corner. I'm going to wait for the shift F1 mouse cursor to go. Okay, here we go. It says go clean your room. Go clean your room. Go clean your room. Like it's getting angry. Okay. So now in door base, right? We're going to override that, and we're going to say no. No.
So basically it's saying that the door base that takes priority.
So yeah, we are literally overriding that.
So on door trigger, on the trigger base, it's supposed to do the,
Trigger base inside of this function here for trigger activated, it says go clean your room.
and then once you go over the door base,
When we override that, it's going to get rid of everything that's here, and it's going to replace it with this.
so you shouldn't see the,
You're not going to see go clean your room. So, like, here's door base.
something's wrong.
So I'm going to put, this is the trigger base, right? And over here is the, if I can click on it. Ah, there we go. There's door base. So let's say I walk through this first one, right? I'll make it full screen. Go clean your room. And up here it says, no. No. Or no, then go clean your room. So I haven't told you what to do yet, and you just told me no. No.
Yeah, there must be done something wrong with it.
Yeah, or you walk through one, it says go clean your room, it says okay, boomer. But it's an actual like Left 4 Dead boomer. That would be funny. Okay, boomer. Does that make sense to everybody? We are literally overriding something that we told the code to do, our logic.
So trigger base should say no if it had the link to the door base?
Trigger base is being overridden, so whatever was here is not running anymore. We're going to run this instead.
Because I'm getting the script for the print string on the door base, but I'm not getting it when I run through it without it.
Um,
Like I'm not getting,
did you drag in a door base into the map?
yes.
You did, and it's still not printing. Make sure it's you hit compile and door base, and make sure it's hooked up. All right. Does anybody have any questions about how this works? No. All right. So let's go back to trigger base real quick. Let's go to the trigger here in your components tab on the left side. Does anybody remember how we find all of the events that are available for us to use?
Oh,
Anybody?
you scroll all the way down on the right.
Yeah, you can scroll all the way down here to the green buttons, or I can right click here and then add event. So we have one for when you walk through the trigger, right? We need one for when we what? When you exit? When you leave? So which one do you think that would be?
Exit overlap?
Yeah, end overlap.
End overlap, yeah.
So let's go ahead and add one, and then go to the event graph. So this is, I'll just do trigger activated, I guess. Yeah, there we go. Trigger activated. Let's do the same thing, and I'm going to be lazy. So I'm going to take all that and the event graph, copy, and then we're going to paste it down here and hook it up like this.
So that's for the exit.
This is for the exit, yeah. If you can't find it in the list here for end overlap, then you can click on it and go to the right side, and there's all the green buttons. Find the one that says end. Should be the third one down, I think. There you go. And then go to the event graph. I don't know. I still think that's a bug. It didn't used to like just do nothing. When you click on one of the green buttons, it used to take you to the event graph. I don't know why it doesn't do that anymore in newer versions of the engine.
How you did trigger activated? Like how you created
This part, we just click on add function here on the left side, and then you can name it, and then do what now? Yeah, you call it. So you like drag this into the graph. Or if you right click and you type it in. So let's say I said trigger activated. There it is. All right. So this is for when we walk into it. When we leave, we need to have a separate one, right? So how would I make another function?
Click the function, add function key.
Yeah, let's add a new function. What should we call this one?
Oh, yeah, exit on trigger. Or,
Yeah, we could do trigger activated, trigger deactivated, trigger entered, trigger exit. Whatever makes sense in what context you're using it. But what I would recommend is that you stay consistent. Over working with blueprints for a while, sometimes it's easy to forget that, oh, there's a bunch of blueprints that use the same kind of logic, right? And they could all come from the same parent class, which is good most of the time. But let's say you had to make a completely separate one that just, it's not the same, code or whatever. Just keeping things consistent is good. Be like, over here it's named this, but over here it's something else. Are these doing the same thing? Yes. Well, it may be probably named the same. All right, trigger deactivated. What should we do here for our print string?
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Later. So whenever you see these little pins and they're pink, that is a string. It is characters, text, something you can type in. And then let's go back to the event graph, and then how do we get that into here after our end overlap?
Oh, into the door base?
Into the trigger base. How do we get the trigger deactivated over here?
Oh, you gotta...
And just drag it right out.
Drag it right out, yeah.
So trigger deactivated, just pull it right out.
In true?
Yeah, we're going to put it in true. So events and functions are almost identical. The difference between them is one, events you can replicate, meaning you can have that run over a network, right, to do multiplayer online. So if I created my own custom event for whatever reason I needed, and say does something, I don't know. You don't have to do this. I'm just showing it as an example. See my event over here, it says replicated, and then there's different options. So I could have this run on the client, I could have it run in the server, whatnot, right? I could hook this up and link it to a timer maybe to do something again and again. Functions can't do that. Functions, you're like, hey, go do this. And they're like, okay. And then it does it, and then you can have it send something back to you and return it. Be like, hey, I did some math, and here's the result, right? Or go find something and then send it back, right? Like a return value. Functions can't do that, but they do have their own graph. So when in doubt, use functions if you can. If you need to have them in the graph for anything that's replicated or time related. Here's an example of that. Pick one of your functions here. Deactivate, doesn't matter.
On which one?
Doesn't matter. It's on the trigger base. Try pulling a pin off and type in delay. Delay.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
Pop up.
Can you find it?
Nope.
Nope. You can't have a delay inside of a function. It just runs the code. There's nothing time-based.
To call the function?
You could put a delay outside the function. Or you could make it a custom event. So anything time-based, you put in here. Anything that's being replicated, you put in here.
So a function is something that happens instantaneously.
Yeah, just like that. Or, it'll take the processor time to do, if you have some really complex math or whatever it is, it'll take time. But it'll tell it to run right then. You can't have it like, do this, and then wait a little bit, and then do that. But in the event graph, that doesn't matter. I could do like, delay, trigger activated, delay, trigger activated. Don't ever do this. I've been yelled at by programmers. Don't do that. That's not okay.
Yeah, that looks confusing.
That's not okay.
That's not okay.
It's not okay. This is not okay. It technically works. The reason for not doing this, I think I told you to do this the other day, didn't I, Simon?
No, but I have done that before.
You've done that before.
Video.
Yeah. So you don't want anything running infinitely, because that's just not good. It only needs to be working either when the player's nearby or using it. There's some sort of constraints, right? You don't want anything just running permanently. And then this gets really messy with like the infinite logo, symbol or whatever. So what you could do is maybe have another like function, right? So let's say I had one that says do something, right? Do something. And then I had this here, like that. And then over here, do something, like that. So it gets to here, and I'll go back. So it's a little bit cleaner.
Still an endless loop.
It is still an endless loop. But I've been told the other way is wrong. I try to hide it from programmers as much as possible. Just like naming functions fire purples. Don't do that either.
Fire purple.
Fire purples.
Fire purple?
Yeah, that's right. All right, so let's go ahead and put a comment around this.
Hit symbol.
So you can drag a box, right? And then what key?
C.
C for comment. So trigger deactivated, exited, something like that. Deactivated. There we go. All right. So we have event trigger activated here inside of the door base, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. How do we get the
Override.
deactivated in here? Anybody?
You do. Oh, alright.
I mean, I know you know because you were doing blueprints, but how do I get the other one in here?
That override.
Yeah, the override. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, Michael. I was just, I know you know what the answer is. So what should we put here?
Print screen.
We could be like, I don't know, see ya. Something like that, maybe? So the trigger base has all of the logic in here for the most part. And then the specific stuff that we want to use the trigger for, like you walk into it, the door opens, you leave, the door closes, right? That specific stuff is going to go in the child blueprint. So like earlier we were talking about the modularity. What things do doors and interactable crates or whatever all have in common, right? Pickup maybe? They all have something where you walk into it and then walk out. So why not take that stuff and put it into its own class and then we can just derive stuff based off of it. So, for example, is like, let's say you are making a vehicle, right? A vehicle blueprint base. What kind of variables would you see, or what properties of a car would you have that you could probably change in a child blueprint?
Just like the color.
Color, number of
Gradient.
wheels, right? It could be a spider. Does anybody drive those anymore? Do y'all know those? The three wheeled cars or whatever. No, they have like two in the front, one in the back. Yeah. I forget what the other brand is called. That might be it. So wheels, paint, is it automatic or manual, right? You could put all those things in the parent class, and then the child class be like, oh, it's got this many wheels. It's an automatic transmission. Does it have a spoiler on the roof? You know, stuff like that.
You can do that for multiple cars.
Yeah, and then you could create car types underneath that to be like, here's one for motorcycles, and they can make another class, and that's only for motorcycles, right?
Heard.
Uh,
I
we
didn't know that for the. I did that. I did the opposite for my multiple doors I have. I made new blueprints.
okay, yeah. So in our game, we use this for skills and pickups, weapons, and whatnot. So like, a skill always has like a cooldown and the number of uses, and is it like a normal cast? You have to press it twice to use it, or is it quick cast? You press it once and it just happens. So we kind of modularize things like that. All right, so let's go back into the map and let's go ahead and test this. Does everybody have this in their door blueprint?
Yo,
Hit compile, save. Go ahead and test it out. Make sure it works.
So that was, we do that in the door.
Yeah, we did the overrides in the door. So this one, right in front of the stairs, for me at least, is the base, and it's going to say, yeah, go clean your room, and when I leave it, it says goodbye. So go clean your room, goodbye. And over here it says, no, when we leave it says, see ya.
okay. Mine's working right.
Go clean your room, goodbye. No, see ya. Okay,
Where are you supposed to see this?
on the top left
In the
corner.
very top left corner, and it's blue.
Did you drag it into the map?
Oh, I mean, crit.
Did you trigger in there?
So that should be on the door base one, right?
Yeah, drag in a door base. And if you want to test out the trigger base,
So it should have two door bases.
Yeah, I put little boxes in because I couldn't.
I added one of each. So this is the trigger base.
Mine just says no twice.
Did you drag in one of each?
So do I drag in the...
From down here? You dragged in one of these and then one of these?
Yeah, I've got one. Right now I have one door, one trigger.
Okay. Make sure that these are hooked up and that you've compiled it. It might be
And
not
that's
printing
in
out the
door
right
base,
thing.
The door base, right?
Yeah.
File, save.
Yeah. Make sure in the trigger base they're both hooked up like this.
Oh. Thank you. The button, yeah.
So, Professor.
Mm-hmm.
So for the parent class, if we were to have it just open, we would have to override it in the child if we wanted to just do the same.
If it's doing something different from the base, then that's where we add the so.
You don't have to if you want all the doors to open.
You know, if you want it to do exactly what the parent does, it's an obedient child. You can just not override anything, right? If you want it to do something very specific, we put it in that one because the trigger doesn't necessarily need to do that, right? So this is more modular, right? And then this is very specific, right? So this is the Lego brick that has like, I don't know, 8 of those little notches you can put something on. This one has wings. I don't know.
So typically, you would put, like, in the base blueprint,
Yeah, this one.
parent, you'll put like, missing, function or something like that as a print, so that you'll know that you put something without a function.
Oh, you're talking about like the to have it print out like that
Yeah.
thing. Yeah. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll have just to make sure it works. I'll actually add some debug stuff into here. I think that's what you were talking about. So, for example,
At a base.
yeah. So Eli's saying like, what if we wanted to keep that print string in there or whatever, but not have it be overridden? Is that what you're talking about? Am I getting that right?
No,
Okay.
like have something as a base value so that you see that you.
You're talking about having a variable. So to be able to see this in the other one?
No.
No,
So
no.
if you missed overriding it, you'll still see something.
Oh, okay. So if there's nothing hooked up here, it'll still do that. Yeah, yeah. So if this isn't
Like
hooked up,
parameter missing or something like that.
oh, you can have that set up. I think with some extra logic that's in the parent. If I don't hook up anything here, it's gonna print whatever's in the parent.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Put something in the parent.
Yeah, put something in the parent.
The parent base message.
Yeah. So that's what I was saying. If you promoted this to a variable, whatever, and it'll show up in here. So for example, let's say that we had promoted this, right? It'll show up in here if we click on class defaults, and it'll show up inside of there.
So for this way, in the parent, for the door to open, would you put the timeline in the construction script?
We're gonna do that in the graph where it actually opening.
In the NVIDIA graph?
And that we may touch on construction script a little bit later before we
That's how I did
do
it.
some other stuff.
I was just
Yeah.
making sure I was
Okay.
thinking through the correct way.
All right. So I'm sorry, I was getting a little confused with what you were asking, Eli. That's my bad. All right. So what do we want it to do now? Let's do this. We already have our trigger activated and deactivated, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what other components do you need for a door?
Have a mesh.
We need some sort of mesh, right?
Yes, sir.
Bless you. Now, do you want to make a Doom style door, or are we gonna make like a
Wood.
wooden door?
Yeah.
Just rotate like that. Let's see, cube. I'll just keep it simple, I guess. We'll do it. Let's do a Doom style door.
You add it to the
Yeah.
child, right?
Yeah, this is on the child. The trigger base doesn't care that this is a door. All it knows is, hey, there's a trigger box and we're gonna use it, right? So I've got my cube here, right? Now I want to do something like this. Whoa. See, I want it just barely hitting the floor. I added a cube to the components of the door base. So type in cube here, if I could spell. Cube is spelled Q-U-B-E, not Q-B-U-Q. Actually, there's no Q in there at all. How do you spell cube? Cube. C-U. You know what I'm thinking about is that there's a game called Cube, and it actually spelled like Q-U-B-E. That's what I'm thinking about. Oh, not Cubert. Yeah, have y'all played that Cube before? You've heard it? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I played it.
Doesn't exist. Okay.
What's the
It's not real.
So he's letting me off the hook.
He says, "What's an Xbox?" All right, I'm gonna change the snapping over here just so that this can go down a little bit further.
Ooh, you changed the snapping.
Am I getting told on? Is that what's going on? Is that what's up?
Keep it 100.
This is gonna be like a big door. Whee! That's a big door. Oh God. I like big doors and I cannot lie. Alright. Is it cutting through the... It's cutting a little bit through the floor. I am reasonably okay with that right now. Just reasonably.
File save it.
Yeah, compile, save. And then I guess if you wanted to test it and then just like, I'm going to go... And just hit the door. No, so yeah. Okay. There's my door. And we're going to have this go up. If you want to go down, you can kind of reverse some of the stuff that we're doing. All right. Let's go back to the event graph. Has anybody heard of a timeline? Has anybody used a timeline in the other classes in Blueprint before? No? Timelines are awesome. They're so cool. I'm going to go ahead and pull a pin off right here next to trigger activated after the print string and type in timeline.
That's on door base, correct?
Mm-hmm. And then for the, it's usually at the bottom of the list. But you'll see it's a big node. It's got lots of pins on it, right? And there's a little clock or a watch on the left side. Let's call this door movement. All right, so now I'm going to double click on it. I'm going to open it up. Woo! Whoa! The abyss. All right, so I'm going to add this right here. See what it says? Add float track.
Oh, flow, yeah.
What is a float?
Number that carries a decimal.
Yes. Number that carries a decimal. All right. Did you see? Everybody's in here? Good? All right. So right here, I'm going to type in the word alpha. Haha, I got you. And then hit enter. And then I'm going to come over here to where it says length. And I'm going to change it to 1. Now, is anybody taking the animation classes?
I'm taking it right now.
Yeah? Have y'all used the, what is it called, the animation graph or the,
Taking right now.
I don't remember what it's called, the timeline? Something like that? Yeah. You see, I don't remember anything from animation. I don't remember what the graph is called. But basically, you can see the curves of the animation, right? So if you right-click in here, you can add a new key. So right-click somewhere over here, doesn't matter. Add key. And see, it's a little yellow diamond. Go ahead and click on it, highlight it, and change the time to 0 and the value to 0. And hit enter. So that's our first key. And then let's add a new key over here somewhere. Right click, add key,
In the middle.
and let's do time 1, value 1. So just right click to add points, keys, and then you can select them and change the value and time. So yours should look like this. If it doesn't, hit both of these little icons right here. So this will fit whatever you have on the screen horizontally and then vertically.
Thank you.
And it should look something like that.
We don't need to smooth it, right?
No, we're not going to smooth it right now. So what we're saying is we have a float track called alpha, and it's going from 0 all the way to a value of 1 over the course of 1 second. That's everything inside of this light gray area here, right? It's a lerp. Oh, you figured it out. Aha. I need that one gif or whatever with him like tapping his forehead like, you got it. All right, so hit compile and then go back to the event graph. What's been added to our timeline here? Alpha.
Alpha.
Hooray. Once you see how this works, I hope your mind will be blown, because the first time I found this out, my mind exploded. This is so cool. It literally. Yeah, just, I was picking pieces up off the floor. Yeah. No, I put it all back in. Crazy glue works really well, Austin. Oh, you believe me? Okay. All right, so alpha, pull a pin off. And then let's type in the word lerp.
What the hell?
Lerp. Not LARP.
Oh, lerp.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm learning-
Not live action role playing.
Yeah, I'm learning these technical terms because I saw all these
Lerp.
different things. I'm like,
What do y'all think LERP means?
Linear interpolation.
Linear interpolation, which also means to blend.
My first guess.
you should just put that.
Yeah, LERP is a short for linear interpolation. It blends between A and B based on whatever this number is, the alpha. So let's say A is 0 and B is 1, and my alpha is 0.5. So how far along is that?
Halfway.
Halfway. If it's 0.25, what is it?
Quarter.
Quarter? 0.75? 3/4.
More than
All right, so let's move A this here, we're gonna move it down to alpha. So hold down Control, click, drag it to here.
Oh wow, that's so handy.
Yeah, hold Control, click, drag, let go, and then you can move it.
I should like the hotkeys.
There you go. So Control will let you move it. Alt will let you break it. It'll go away, the connection. So if we're gonna blend the door's location, A could be where it starts at, and B could be where it ends at, right? And which axis do we need to move this to get to go up and down? X, Y, or Z? Z. Yeah, in Unreal we have X, which is going forwards. Y is green going to the right, and then Z is up. So
So we wanted to go up and down the door.
yeah, we're gonna make it like a Doom style door, and it's gonna go,
Okay.
and it's gonna go up, right?
Good gate.
Yeah. We could do both sides, but this just saves time. You could basically use the same code here, and you could add another component, right? Another door piece, and then just do the opposite if you want it to like open like that, or if you wanted to get it to rotate, kind of the
Now,
same
would you
properties.
Would those have to be separate blueprint or yeah?
They're separate
classes?
separate pieces.
Okay.
Yeah. So like
okay, so you'll still put them in the same blueprint.
yeah. All right, so we have this, right? It's going to go over the course of 1 second. We're going to blend between A and B. And we actually want to change the cube's Z value, right? So if you click on your cube, what does it say right now? Yours might be a little bit different from mine. What is the Z value over here in the details? Okay. Remember that number, right? Yeah, if you click on your cube here, your door, I guess I can name this the door.
What's that side panel called? The details.
Yeah, details. So mine says 280. Remember this number.
Mine says 0.
Yours says 0. That's fine.
Okay.
Whatever number. I moved mine up a little bit so it's a little bit flush with the floor.
Okay.
But I'm going to remember that number for now.
Which numbers are we?
Z.
Okay.
For your actual cube that you added. Yeah. So this value. See if I move it up and down. See the Z changes. So I'm going to type in. What did I say? 280. Type in your number here.
Where'd you type it?
Into A. So that's where we're starting. And then pull a pin off. And then we're going to promote it. We're going to save it. Mm-hmm.
You said promote it to a variable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pull off a pin, promote it at the very top. So it'll look like this. Promote to variable.
Just door start.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to do that one more time. Here's A. Drag. Yeah, drag your node down here. Yeah, there we go.
Don't forget your tulip.
And then you deleted the variable that you put in.
Hmm?
You deleted the base.
Nope. It's still there.
Wait, where did you name it? Door start? I think I can make it a good assumption on top, right?
So mine still says 280
Wait, where did you name it? Door start though?
over here. You press F2 and name.
So
So whatever number you have in here
In the Z.
is going to be, yeah, whatever number you type into these, or whatever value, and then you pull a pin off. So let's say that my door starts at 280 and it goes up to 580. Let's do 580. And I promote this to a variable, right? I'll call this door end, or door offset, something like that. And I hit compile, it should save that number. Yes, it says 580. So if you have a base value to start with and then you promote it, base value, whatever it is, number, float, integer, boolean.
So are we just adding variables?
Yeah, just pull a pin off of A. Yeah, pull a pin off right here. And then let go and do promote.
Oh, right. Okay.
There you go. And then you can save it, you can name it over here. So we have a door start and we have a door offset. And we're referring to the value of our height, which is on the z-axis.
So for tulip, you'd be like Z-axis offset or Z-axis.
How do I get it to show up inside of the editor?
Oh, you gotta press that little thing on the right side.
I got to turn on the eyeballs, right? Right here. So make sure that these are turned on. If it's yellow, remember there's no tooltip. So if you want to put a tooltip, so if you hover over it and it'll tell you some extra info, you can do that. Everybody got that so far? Anybody need help? No help? Okay. If I don't see any hands, I'm assuming everybody's okay. All right. So what we're gonna do now is we've got like, hey, we're gonna blend these two values together. Well, what are we actually gonna blend? Well, we're gonna change the height of this. So take your door or cube, whatever you have over here, your shape, and drag it into the graph, and put it right here. It won't say getter set. It's just gonna drag it from here. Yeah, if you're dragging a component in, it shouldn't ask. It should be just a getter. So we have this. And then we want to type in set.
Position?
Set, let's do set world.
Location?
Yeah. Now, bear with me. Whenever I do this, I always forget which one to use because there's like 10 of these. So if it doesn't work the first time, I apologize. I can never remember which is the right one. There's set world location, there's set relative location, there's set offset, there's set delta.
I use set relative.
I can't remember.
On mine. I use set relative on mine and it worked.
Um,
On my other door.
so actually, if this doesn't work, we're going to try relative. Hopefully this will work the first time.
Hopefully. Do we need
Get
one
world
location?
location from the cube and then offset it by the.
So yeah, what I'm going to do is new location. I'm going to right click on it. And then I'm going to split it. So this vector, this XYZ location, right? We're just going to split it into its parts. And then we only want to change Z. We don't want to change X or Y. So where should this go? The new value. And the Z, yeah. Again, I apologize. If this is really funky or it flies off into the abyss, I'm sorry.
Y'all have any-
I'm probably not using the right node.
Oh, the door.
Yeah, it's usually the second or third one.
How would you create edit function?
Do what now?
Edit.
Oh, to like combine them together. So yeah, if you split, if there's a pin on here, right, and you split it or recombine, you can do that. Or if you take a pin off, you can type in make vector or break vector. So like there's make vector, and then there's that one.
How do you
That way. Which way? That way.
Oh, whoops. Oh, like add them to each other. You could type in like an add, like float plus float. Yeah. You can try that. So we're not changing X and we're not changing Y, we're changing Z. If the world location doesn't work, then it's probably the relative. I'm sorry, I can't remember which one it is. We'll find out.
Mine disappeared to reappear in a different location.
Did it?
Still pretty cool.
Oh, did it go off then?
Yeah.
So did it snap to that location in world space?
Yeah, like watch, it'll disappear.
Okay, so then that's not the right
and then
one.
it pops up and
That's not the right
So
one.
it's set.
So then it's set relative. Okay, thank you, Paul.
Or my
Again, I'm sorry. I forget. I have a goldfish memory.
set relative.
Let's try that one.
And just split it and boom.
Paul's gonna be our unofficial like tester. Like, does this actually work?
And we gotta split it again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's okay though, because even sometimes you make blueprints and you're like, why doesn't that work? And then you go back and it's like this.
Or
It's
like
not
you're
even hooked
missing
up.
One little node and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
It happens.
And it does.
So yeah, try set relative location. I need this.
Mine's not moving.
Up
Yep.
and down.
It works. It looks beautiful too.
Check your numbers for door start and your door offset.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it looks beautiful.
I'm gonna try.
I'm cheating. I have my door right here for my other thing. I did all these blueprints.
Oh, you talking about for these?
Once you got touch, like this one.
Yeah. So you can put whatever the number is right here for door start. Door offset, I just put in a larger number since we're going up, right? But what's cool about this is that you can go into the map, right? Everybody turned on those two instance editable icons, right? Everybody turn these on. If you compile and save and go back to here, you have those values here that you can change. So let's say mine went up to 580, right? So this is what mine looks like. Here's my big Doom door, and it's like...
Yeah, get out my way. Nah.
You got something against doors? Is that? I don't like doors. They sound like Francis from Left 4 Dead. I don't like stairs. I don't like stairs. See, but now my door offset, I could change that to be 2,000, and it's gonna fly. Right? Whee! Whoa! Oh God! Whoa! Aha! You got the next step. All right. See if you can get this to work in your map. Test it out. If it doesn't work, raise your hand. Let me know, and we'll try to come fix
I
it.
can help if someone.
Josh, can you do like simple animations like that?
Hmm?
So you can basically do like some simple animations like that with rotate and move.
Yeah.
So like
I did my
I'm imagining like a sci-fi door. Like you know how when you come up to it, it'll like twist a little bit and then little things will come off of it.
You could do simple stuff like that. Yeah, if it has a lot more motion, a lot more parts, then you probably do that inside of another, a Maya or something. But
I haven't taken an animation yet, but I want to do something.
it's fun to do these kind of things.
Yeah, blueprints are fun.
All right, does anybody need help? Raise your hand. You would like assistance, por favor? Now, if you've gotten it to open, my challenge for you is try to get to close.
Oh, I already did.
And you only have to hook it up to one of this. Hey, Eli,
Oh, well, that's really easy how to get it to close. All you gotta do is plug in the reverse.
no, not here.
All you do is plug in the reverse and it closes. That's all you do.
And what did he do?
Like, boom. Shit's on me, man. The thing is, the thing I need to learn the most is production. You know, networking, production-wise. You know, that's what they know. And technical terms, I fucking suck ass. Knowing technical terms and the terminology.
Anybody else need help? Raise your hand. No. Did anybody figure out how to get it to close? You did. How did you do it? You copy pasted. There you go. You copy pasted it. So that is a method. Did anybody else try something different?
Yeah, all I did was just hook up the trigger deactivated into reverse and it closes behind me.
So, yeah, this works in certain instances. Sometimes you actually do need a separate timeline, like what Dakota did.
Yeah, I had to do something like
Especially if it's like multiple components. So like there's two doors, right? You might need an extra timeline. But you can do it like this. What's cool about this is we're using play in reverse instead of play from start and reverse from end, so it doesn't pop. So if I walk into the door and it starts opening and I walk out, it'll just go back down instead of it being like start from the very beginning, right? So you can do it like this. If there's multiple parts, like, hey, I actually need a different timeline, you can just add another one and do what Dakota did, just copy it, right?
But if it's simple, you can just use like
You
So
can
if
use the
copy-
same stuff.
You just plug it into the reverse one.
Yeah, if you were to copy this, you could plug it into reverse. Now, here's the coolest part. Remember when we put these values between 0 and 1, right?
Yeah.
Let's say that somebody came to you and they said, the door opens way too slow. Make it open faster. What should I do?
Cut the time.
Should I go into here every single time and then make new keys for the timeline?
No.
No. I should do what?
Make it variable.
I should make it modular.
modular.
I should make it so that I can go and change a number and it'll change how fast it plays. Yeah, the speed. So let's leave this like that, right? I'm going to go up to Event Begin Play up here. If you don't have one, you can just right-click in the background and add it. should be this one right here. And I'm going to do this. If you go down to your My Blueprint section on the left side of the window, do you see where it says Components? There's our door, and then see, there's our timeline. It has like a little clock icon next to it, a little watch. Drag that into your graph right here, and then let's do Git. And then type in set play rate.
Set play rate. So what would be different from using the instead of a get, you do set?
Well, we don't want to set this component to be another component.
Okay.
We want to change a value on that, so we pull a pin off of that. Yeah. So play rate. If the rate is 1, is that slower, normal speed, or fast? Normal. If it's 0.5,
It's faster.
that's slower.
Slower.
If it's like 5, that's 5 times as fast, right? So we could type in a number right here. What if somebody came to you and said, hey, I actually want the door to take 5 seconds to open?
You make it a variable.
Is it already currently a second?
Yeah, these are measured in seconds. So not that it takes, what would be a rate of not 5 seconds, but like, if I put a rate of 2, it would be 2 times as fast. Put a rate of 5, it would only take a fifth of a second, right?
I guess.
Because it's 5 times as fast. Or yeah, 0.2 would be 0.2. Yeah. No, you are right. 0.2, not 0.25. Let's say somebody said, I want this to take 5 seconds long to open. How could we change that with some math? Yes.
Yes.
You got it. Yes.
What do you think?
Chris is like, yeah, I know the.
Divide? Oh,
Yeah. So pull a pin off of here,
float
and then
divide
hit
by
the
float.
/. So float divided by float.
Should've knew that.
What should I put up in this numerator? Numerator, right? I can math. Yeah. Numerator.
1.
I almost said denominator, and that's not a thing. That's like the denominator and the numerator together.
Sounds like a cool band or something.
The denominator. They're all their songs are about like calculus or just something. Denominator. Oh, that would be a death metal band, Common Denominator.
And they'd be mad about how math ruined their lives.
But they're all secretly like physics teachers. Yeah. So I want to put the number 1 in the numerator, and the denominator.
5? Oh.
Let's promote it, and then say open or move duration. Move duration.
So that we're
So this isn't speed, because speed is implying it's getting faster or slower. This is literally how long it takes. So this is a duration. You put movement duration, open, close duration, something like that.
and our default is going to be 1 on that.
Let's put 1, yeah. And now that we've set the timeline play rate, we can edit that inside of the map, which is awesome. So you could have a door that takes 10 seconds to open if you wanted to, or 1 second. So try this. Have like a couple doors, right? Just duplicate it. I want to set this one to 10 seconds. And I should probably change this back to like, I don't know. What'd I do, 580? And then we'll change this one to 580 as well. This one takes 1 second. This one takes 10 seconds. Now try it. See if you can go into the world and see it open. So this one takes 1 second. So 0, 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Builds up in anticipation.
Yeah.
It does. Now, what would be the point of having a slow-moving door? Tension. Very good.
I don't see my move duration. I put the little I at station.
Did you hit compile?
Yep. That's it. You know what I mean?
How about now?
Set play rate
There you go.
function. So
where did I get this one? Pull in the timeline component from down here, and then pull off and type set play rate.
Oh yeah, that shit look creepy. Opening all slow and shit.
So, for example, a use case for this is: did anybody play Gears of War 5? Not really. A little bit. Okay.
No.
Did anybody play that escape mode?
No.
They were all kind of like modular, like blueprint kits or whatever, because that game was made in Unreal. They had a bunch of like sections that you had to fight enemies through, and they'd flood it with gas. So you had to keep moving forward, but if the gas caught up to you, you died, right? So you clear out the nest, right? And then you get to the escape at the very end, and there's huge big bay doors, and your back is against a wall waiting for this huge thing to open, like 30 seconds, and that's a very long time. It's like, oh my god, open, and it's just flooding enemies, the gas is right next to you, and as soon as it finishes open, you can get to the chopper, and then it blows up. So having a really slow-moving door is definitely
Builds up
tension.
suspense and,
Yeah, it builds suspense, yeah.
that's dope that Gears of War 5 was put in.
Something funny that Roderick and I found out about that, in that escape mode, they have a budget for how many you can make your own maps. So with like a tile editor, so you'd be like, hey, you have a budget of this much, and they'll fill up depending on how many pieces you have and how big and complex. But you can separate them into chapters. Like chapter 1 has a budget of 100 blocks or whatever. When we filled it up, we had to put a transition room. So it's like, oh, go get in a decontamination shower, and then it opens up to the next section. Well, they have all the lights turned off because it's streaming in the next section of the level. So the lights would like bzzz and turn on right before the textures pop in. So you can't see it loading in. It's like, that's pretty clever. That is very clever.
That's a procedure generation what they're doing.
A little bit, yeah. But I'm sure all those modules are in a way blueprints that they snap together. So if you ever get a chance, go watch some of that game mode, and you can see where some of this stuff might come into
So
play.
making level blueprints and then procedure generations are two different concepts of getting the level to load.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of different components in there, but because we have access to a bunch of the back end stuff, you can just find what you need and kind of manipulate it and whatnot. All right, does everybody's doors work?
Yup.
So you have different speeds, right? Awesome. And then they went up and down, right?
If you set the move duration to 0, it doesn't give you an error message.
Hmm?
You set the move duration to 0.
Oh, yeah, because it's like, I'm not going to move. Mm.
Now, if you put FYIG in there, it might give you an error.
So now all we need is that Doom, you know, or him going up and going, ugh, you know, and grunting or whatever.
So now how do we do make it activate one time instead of
Ah, that's a good thing, yeah.
remaining?
So say your question louder, Paul.
How do we make it so it goes up once we hit the hitbox but doesn't loop?
How do you open it just once?
Yeah.
You would put
Because right now we have to stand in the hitbox
deactivate.
and remain there.
Yeah, so what we could do is we could take, I want to move this out of the way. And for now, because we know it works, I'm going to get rid of the print strings. If you want to keep yours there, that's fine. I want to get rid of mine. I'm going to go over here and disconnect this part, right?
You only play it once, then it will only go up.
It depends on what kind of logic you add in here. Let's try adding one of these. It's called do once. It's going to open once.
But you don't care how many times it will close.
No, because the reverse is reversing for where it currently is. If we had it to reverse from end every time, so you could only go to the door once, but then every time it like popped back to the top and came down.
Oh, glitch back.
Yeah, but it's like, oh, it's already there, so I'm not going to do anything. Do once. Now, what if we wanted the option to have it loop or only play once?
Have the option.
Have an option that we could change in here. It's like, let's say we're building a map and Paul's like, hey, I need one that will open once. And then Aaron's like, well, can I have the option for it to open multiple times?
You would make a construction sheet in the parent.
We can just add a Boolean right here.
Boop.
Or, well, and I don't
How
want
do
to
you do
delete
that
it.
again? Get the branch.
B and left click.
Oh, thank you. So handy.
I'm not going to add too much more to this before we take a break. I'm going to add like one more thing after this.
So like the door
And then we'll
like,
go.
is a variable, promote the variable, the condition.
Mm-hmm. So like, let's say that we have this, right? I activate the trigger when I walk into it. We're going to ask it a question like, hey, is this door only used once? If that's true, only do it once and then play. And if it's false, what should I do? Yeah, just hook it up like that. And then if you can, try to keep your wires pretty clean. Something like that. And then reverse, I don't care because it's already closed, right? So what should I do with this one? Good. And then we'll do a little B and then say, what should we say? Can open once, or what should you type?
Number of opens? I don't know.
Open once.
Do once question mark?
Do once question mark. I used to put question marks in all of my booleans, and then I stopped doing that because it was really annoying. It's like, can this work? I don't want to.
What'd you call it?
I know you kind of want to read it like that. People read it, you know.
What'd you call it, OG? I can't see.
Can open once. And I got to turn on the eyeball, right? And then you can decide whether you want this on or off by default. I'm going to have it turned off, right? So yeah, we just promoted this in here. Hmm? Whatever it is right here is the default. Yeah, so if I hit compile and go here, see it's turned on. If I turn it off and compile, it's going to keep whatever this is, unless you changed it here. If you changed it here, it's going to keep that number. So for example, like where it says move duration, if I change the move duration, the default to like 5, and then I hit this, it would go back to 5. But since it's 1, it's going to go back to that number.
But once you change it once in the world, changing it in the editor won't.
Because this is basically a copy in the editor in the map file, this will never override this unless you go over here and say apply instance changes to blueprints. You're like, oh, I like these changes. You can apply them to the parent or the whatever, this one in the content browser.
So I just mean like if you were to have your doors set in your world, and then you decided you wanted to change the default settings, would that then overwrite everything you just placed down?
No. If you change these values, they will stay. But when you revert them, so here, let's do that as an example. See, this is set to 1 for the move duration, right? Let's say the default on the door is actually 5 instead of 1. So I change the default. This one still says 10. If I revert it back to the original, now it says 5. Pretty handy. They thought this through, for the most part. For the most part. You'll find some things that are very annoying, but for the most part.
It's so well in everything else. Why this?
Game development's hard. I don't know. Programming is hard. All right, so let's say the big door can only open once. Yeah, let's just say it can only open once. So I'm going to go up to it. I'm going to wait for it to open, and I'm going to go through here, and I'm going to leave. And then, oh, crap. I can't get back through. Oh, whatever will I do?
Now what if you didn't go through?
So we'd have to think about that, right? Game design-wise, like maybe there's pickups in the games. Maybe there's a key card like in Doom. Do you have this card? Yes. Okay, now you can go through, but it only works once.
You
Oh,
have to-
because
But you say in this scenario, if you were to like open the door from the back away, you'd be locked out of going in that room.
Yeah, so maybe we have it so where if this is only open once, then don't reverse.
or a player doesn't walk through, can you do something specific like that?
Like this, if it is this, if it's false, right?
Oh, okay, yeah.
So it is marked can open once. But when I leave, it doesn't go down, right? Because of that logic we just added. If this is false, then it'll go down. So if I turn this off, it won't matter. So you can still get back through it.
You can split it into 2 triggers and set the other trigger out, like inside, to close it once you.
Yeah,
pass
you could have something on one on either side. Yeah, that could be like that.
So that would mean you could also have a trigger on the front-facing side of it, where it will only open once, but if you left it from the other side, it will open up again.
Yeah, so like this, let's say there's one over here, right?
Like if you backed away now and it closed,
Oh,
you
okay.
have another trigger. You have a trigger saying, okay, you're on this side of the door still. It'll still open up again.
So yeah, you just put it up over here, and if you touch the other one, it'll close. If you wanted a one-sided, yeah.
Could you do another trigger in there?
Hmm. Yeah, you can do multiple triggers. Yeah.
You can do 2 colliders in the
Mhm.
blueprint,
Mhm.
right?
There's sometimes if you go on YouTube or whatever and you see people do tutorials, and they'll use this node instead. It says actor begin overlap. Don't use that. This is referring to anything that has like a box or a shape that you can walk through on it. That's why I like to do them separately for that very reason. So this one, like over here, that is specifically talking about this component. If I added another one for some reason, right, and then you could edit that one. Yes, Michael.
Which event nodes can you only use once?
Hmm.
Like which event nodes in here in one blueprint class can you use only once? Like event tick, you can't use more than one of those in the one class, right?
Oh, okay. You're talking about like.
Because there's certain ones that won't let you like use 2 in one class.
Yeah, those are the ones that are usually built in, not the ones that you make. You can call the ones that you make whenever you want, as long as it's
So
it's
like
performance
triggers
wise.
and like other things like that are okay.
If it's anything you can create, you can drag as many references as in here. Like, but you can only have one event begin play. You can only have one event tick. If you can avoid event tick as much as possible, maybe one day we'll talk about that. Okay, now here's the 2 more things, and then I'm gonna let everybody go for a break. All right, let's go to the construction script real quick.
On door based?
Mm-hmm. And see if you can take these things with you.
Just the whole
Grab this part right here in your graph, right?
Yep.
So the door start, door offset, lerp, and set relative location.
Control C.
Copy those, right? And then go into the construction script. So the event graph is running when we hit play, right? Construction script is in the editor. And this is very, very cool. Go ahead and paste that stuff right here.
Yeah.
And then hook it up. Now I'm going to pull a pin off of alpha because we don't have anything hooked up to it, right? I'm going to type in this. It's going to promote to variable. And I'm going to type in preview. And then I'm going to change in the details panel. Do you see where it says slider and value range? Do you see those?
Yeah.
Change the slider range and value range minimum to 0 and the max to 1 for each of those.
So 0,
Not
1,
41.
0, 1.
Yep.
What's a local variable? Because I got that option.
Local variable means you don't see it outside of the function.
Okay.
So if like there's stuff that will only be used here and you don't want to see it everywhere else. That's,
Because that's the first time I saw that.
yeah. All right. So this says preview, right? I'm going to leave the default value at 0, and I'm going to turn on the eyeball, right? And everybody has the ranges set, 0 to 1. Hit compile, save. Now, before you try this, does anybody remember the moving platforms in Unity, where you had the slider where you could preview it? We just made that.
Oh, cool.
So where it says preview here, drag it, and the map. See, it's showing you where it is. So that's the value of lerp of 0, the alpha, and then this is 1. So I like doing this because it shows whoever's using these, including you, what it's going to look like. And if I change my door offset or any of these numbers, it updates it real time. So let's say I want it to go up to 5,000. I'm going to zoom out.
And that would be your offset where you wanted it.
See, now it goes up here. Whoa. So if I type in 0.5, that's halfway. And then if I type in door offset of 1,000, it'll update automatically.
Nice.
It does the math for you.
If you change the scale, does it affect it?
Are you talking about here?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll probably affect it a little bit. Yeah, see, it's a little bit bigger. But now you can be like, I don't even know where these numbers are at. What does it look like when it's all the way opened? Well, put it at 1, and then just kind of bring this down to where you need it to. It'll pop a little bit. Something like that. And now you can kind of see where it's at. And that's how the construction script works.
Guy ain't even
Ta-da.
ready for the complicated stuff.
All right, but you do have to remember,
To set it back to 0.
well, you can have it do that for you if you'd like.
Okay.
Let's say in the event graph on begin play, we set preview to 0. So even if my door is like, oops, I left the door open, oops, and that didn't work. Hang on. I know why. Yeah. That's what I meant, sorry.
What is that? Set play what?
We just copied it again, and I changed the alpha to 0.
Oh, for the
So it starts
for the
closed if you want it to. So like, oh no, I left the door open. Haha, it's okay.
Oh, that's cool. That's dope.
So then you can have, and then remember in that video it says start with a simple system, and you can keep changing, refining it, right? And then if you had other components that are kind of turning their own system, you kind of make those separately.
Yeah.
And then, let's say we added a Boolean on here for whether it's locked or not. You could have a locked door.
So if you had to guess, how much of your work when you're doing this type of stuff, how much of your work are you putting into like your ease of use as opposed to actual gameplay mechanics? Because like most of what you've done here is really just the only gameplay stuff you've done is make it to where it can either open, how fast it opens, and is it open?
So I will say there is a balance to that. There is a balance to that. I will say though, making it easier to use up front makes it easier for people to make maps, because then they don't have to come back to you and ask for features. So let's say somebody comes and says, I got the door working, it'll go up and down and stuff. Oh, I need it to be able to be, I can check it to be locked or not. All I have to do in here is go and add that, and then I push the changes to our server or whatever. People download it like we're using GitHub or whatever, and then be like, oh, I have an option now to turn it on or off.
So it's
So-
better for communication and teamwork overall.
It is, and for me personally, I like stuff that's drag and drop, turning checkboxes and changing numbers, and it works like that. I don't want to have to spend forever to figure out how to fiddle with it, because that's kind of like if I make a crappy system here, and then I get into the map and be like, I have to click on that and then click on this and connect these.
Remember we
It's like the same amount of time. So I'd rather do that ahead of time and kind of think about what might be needed within the terms of your scope, right? And then try to plan ahead a little bit. So I do understand that because I've done that before. You can kind of go into a rabbit hole and be like, I'm going to add all these things, and we're like, we only use 3 of them. It's perfect. It's so beautiful. So it is a balancing act. If you can keep it easy to use and fairly simple, that's best. So like for having a simple like Doom style door, and we don't need a lock or whatever, this works fine. And then let's say you have an artist, right? And you're like, hey, can you make this into an actual mesh or whatever? And then we can play a sound and add that to there. They can do that, and we'll just keep the same blueprint everywhere that we have been using, and then just kind of continue on, right? So, but yeah, it is a balancing act. But do you see how much time it takes to make something? And you wonder what takes people so long to make games? Like White Cyberpunk was pushed back to September for polish.
Are you making a game? Like, really irritates me when someone asks me when I'm in school, like, so you're making a game? Well, like a part of it, man. Like,
Yeah,
people
there's a
don't
lots
know
of moving
production
parts.
games. Like, so
Literally,
you
there's
make
lots
a
of
whole
moving
game?
parts.
Oh, I don't. I wish I could make a whole game.
Does anybody have any questions about this stuff? No? Alrighty. Well, I'm going to let you guys take a break. Go grab some food or whatever. Stretch your legs. And when we get back, we're going to jump in and try looking at more of those modular kits. And I'm going to give you guys the first assignment.
So modular means like break down.